Hello, today I'm going to do a PSA and kind of a review also. This is the product I'm going to talk about. This is the Flint's brand Quiet Time 33 decibel earplugs, 5 pairs in this pack. I have pretty bad hearing damage from extreme high decibel experiences earlier in my life. I went to lots of rock concerts, big ones in stadiums and amphitheaters, and my adult life has just been awash with these high decibel situations. And my childhood was marked with lots of shooting. It was kind of um, it was one of my dad's hobbies, and our family would often go shooting, and that was a part of kind of the culture of our family when we would have um, celebrations like in the 4th of July and just at regular family get-togethers. We had a trap shooting sort of like apparatus. It would shoot a clay pigeon. If you pulled on a little rope, it would sling it down over the property, and we would just shoot at it with shotguns. And so a result of all this, mostly music, because I've played music over the years a lot of times and gone to these concerts. I have tinnitus, which is a ringing in the ears. This is a problem with a lot of people. As you damage your hearing, the little cells or the hair type structures in your ears that are standing straight up, they just get mangled and gnarled when they are exposed to especially percussive noises, like very loud, sharp, high decibel sorts of things. And what happens is your brain sort of loses these registers. So at a certain range along the hearing spectrum, the hairs in your ear, which are responsible for picking up these noises, stop functioning. The brain, in turn, scientists believe, adds kind of that phantom pitch to your hearing, and it can be maddening. I don't suffer from it in the way that a lot of military personnel would suffer from being around, huge caliber shells, or just years and years in a workplace that's extremely high decibel range. So I try all the time to protect my hearing now, and I will always wear earplugs if I feel like I'm in a setting that is dangerous. So one consequence of this is I can't really go to see films. Like if I go to a modern theater, it's really loud in there, and it'll take me a day or two for my ears to stop ringing. They don't really ever stop ringing, but to kind of drop back down to a floor, a noise floor that I'm accustomed to. And the worst thing that happened to me a few years ago was I went to see a band I really liked in New York at a big venue, and the speaker boxes hung from the walls like big towers. There were hundreds of speakers, just giant speakers, filling this small performance venue with a great deal of noise. So I got really paranoid at that point because my ears rang for a long time, maybe like a month. And so I, in my normal fashion, got online and started trying to really learn about the symptoms and see if something can be done. And the thing I want to drive home to my viewership is that you cannot repair your hearing. Science just hasn't quite reached that point. And in our lifetime, they probably won't, because it's not well understood the way that the cells connect to the different channels in your brain, and it's sort of just a real epidemic. So on my keychain, I've got a little metal case, and it stays closed nicely. It's from a company called Earpiece, like earpiece. But the earplugs that came with it were kind of low quality. They weren't a very high decibel rating. They were just kind of like, well, they helped for a little while, but earplugs, I'd also like to mention, kind of have a lifetime. These earplugs I used maybe once or twice, but the structure of these little foam cells kind of breaks down. I was going to demonstrate that one of these is a little older and more well used than the other, so this might not really turn out too well, but I'm going to pinch them both together, and then as we finish our discussion you'll see that one of them will plump up faster and maybe a little bit more of a sturdy, like heavy-handed plumping. And see, this one's already moving much faster. So the slowness that this one's plumping up, the slow speed, just sort of let you know that it's a little bit older. The foam cells are not bouncing back quite as fast. So what you really want to do, if you are protecting your hearing, which you should be whenever you're in a high decibel environment, like if sirens and things go by and you feel like you're already on the threshold of having trouble with your hearing, lifelong trouble, and I'm only in my early 30s, so just pinch those ears closed, just really cover them. And please, if you're doing lawn work or using any type of other machinery, even if it doesn't really seem too loud to you, the decibel reader would probably indicate otherwise, and you really want to limit your exposure. And if you enjoy going to concerts, that can be the most destructive thing if you're not, into like shooting sports, because if you're near the speaker towers at a concert for the long exposure of the opening band and maybe like the other band and then the encore and the other sets, you come out of there with that muffled sort of like feeling and the ringing in your ears, and that indicates that you've already got damage. But your hearing will come back, but only a certain number of times, because once the damage has been done, your ears come back to full function. Well, they never really come back to full functionality, but they come back more slowly, and it's just more of like a grinding process where you kind of just have to wait it out, and you're like days later you're kind of like, my ears are still ringing. Now I'm starting feeling all these emotional sorts of feelings like anxiety and depression, about quality of life being a lot lower than it was before your exposure. So get a hold of some of these, no matter your age or inclination. Just as, in a modern society, you've got to have lots of protective tools around you. Eye protection when you're dealing with corrosives, and hearing protection when you're dealing with noise problems. I like the Flint's brand. There's actually, I can't say that I've tried or used all of them. These are over the counter from big box retailers. And I've sort of like messed with the foam plugs through the packaging on a few different brands. Some of them seem a little less well made, and some of them are kind of like they have funny shapes that I guess are just part of, like, it seems to me kind of like a marketing ploy, because the more foam that you have, like if it's a straight cylinder of foam, it seems like you could really fill those channels of your ear, and you'll learn how your particular shape of your ear likes to be, how the earplug likes to be coaxed into your ear. Because one of my ears pretty much immediately takes the earplug and it's fine, but the other one is like, it's either more, like it either bends inward a different way, or it's more like narrow, or something's going on, so I kind of have to tweak it. And when you're putting your earplug in, you got to lift your ear up. This makes the cavity of your ear a little more accessible, and then pinch the foam closed. I try to just do like a uniform pinching and not really like a twist, so it's not sort of like coming out of a twisted sort of a configuration. So just get it, just pretty much into one pinched little tube, not really twisted. Hold it in there, just drive it in, sort of just find that key moment, find that, and then hold it there. I guess maybe I mean the keyhole in the lock. Just hold it in there until it slowly expands out. And you might have to, you gotta hold it for probably a full 60 seconds, then you release, and then I even do some additional sort of like seating of the earplug. And then you're good. And I've also got some of the big shooting big old shooting ear protective like muffs. And if I nowadays, if I was going to do sports shooting or just, you know, shooting for fun, I would double up. I would definitely use both because 33 decibels really helps. Like I went to a concert recently and I brought both. So I put in a new fresh pair of ear plugs and the noise level was fine. Like I often will kind of like snap around my ears when the earplugs are in to make sure I can still hear the snapping, or I'll sort of just, you know, judge it based on how comfortable I am. But at the end of the show, they were just playing the music through the speakers that are it's kind of like the music that the audience walks out of the venue while they're listening to it. And I thought, well, this is going to be a lot more quiet than the concert itself, so I popped them out and blam, you know, it was really, really loud. I didn't even realize it because my hearing had been at least partially protected during the entirety of the concert. So I limit my exposure and I take great pains and kind of just unapologetically wear earplugs because your health and your senses and the functioning of your body is more important than any kind of social, you know, problem you would have. Like, for everyone is understanding of safety precautions or safety measures. If they're not, they're not worth your time to be bothered with. So that's it. I use my earplugs whenever I need them. You should too. I do recommend Flints. They work pretty well for me and get the highest decibel rating possible. There's no time when I would really use a lower decibel rating. It just seems, for my purposes, I've got to have the most protection. But if you're maybe in like a quieter office environment and you sit next to a copier or something and it's just constantly going all day, or you have to deal with other types of like lower decibel workplace problems, you might want some less effective ones so you can still hear your work colleagues when they're talking to you or something. But just take my lifestyle as an example and try to do your best to protect yourselves while science catches up, or while, you know, the world, I don't really anticipate this happening or any time in the future, but maybe one day it will be kind of a society-wide understanding of how delicate our physiology is and how we are not designed really to accept extremely loud noises. Anything loud in the history of our civilization would be like a warning, like a dangerous thing. It would be like a rock tumbling down a big mountain or something. So in those cases, your lifestyle, your entire lifetime, you'd only be exposed to a high decibel sort of a situation, maybe once, maybe never, because it would just be kind of a, you know, big warning to you, you know, right before the tree falls on your head or on your tent. So that's it. That's it, I guess. PSA from Dale's Discourse.